our index fingers are pointing straight forward, and we're going to spread our fingers away from the index fingers. We're going to tuck our toes under. We're going to get a really good grip on those toes. We want to imagine that we've got a block between our heels, and I'm going to come around and put blocks between your heels. Press into your fingers, press into your palms, push the floor away. We're going to exhale to curl the spine, thinking angry kitty, and then we're going to inhale, shoulders back, sit bones lift, gazing up. If you feel your wrists at all, you're going to push more into your fingers and your palms. And if you still feel your wrists, then you're going to walk your hands forward. And if you still feel your wrists, then we're going to put you on blocks. So I'm putting a block between everybody's heels. I want you to think about your inner heels trying to drop the block, and your outer heels trying to squeeze the block. Get me. Squeeze me. Squeeze me. Yeah. Trying to keep the toes tucked if you can. Getting as much movement into your spine as possible. Feet a little closer. If your knees are sensitive and you want a little extra padding underneath your knees, just let me know and I'll grab you a second mat. And really see if you can get the space between the base of the thumb, squeeze it, base of the thumb and the index down onto the floor as much as you can. Takes the weight out of the outer wrist. And then as we progress with our practice, so your knees are different distances from the top of the mat. One knee's further ahead than the other. As we progress with our practice, if we can really find the base of the thumb and the index, then we can move into things like arm balances and stuff like that. All right, keep moving with the breath. 3 more times. And then once those 3 times are complete, stop with a perfectly straight spine. Keep your block between your heels as you start to bring your seat back towards your feet. Walk your hands forward, keeping the index fingers pointing straight forward, and start to work your forehead towards the floor. Don't force it. Push your hands into the floor like you wanted to slide the mat away from your knees. Feel like the shoulders are going to the floor, but the arms are lifting up away from the floor. So this is puppy pose. Find the entire circumference of the palms and root it. Push into all 10 of your fingertips and root them. If this feels like this is enough for you, this is enough for your shoulders, then you just hang out here and you really work the arm strength here. Those of us that want to go into down dog, we're going to zip up our bellies, we're going to fire up our legs. Everybody keeps their block. As you slowly push into down dog, you don't lose the straightness in the shoulders. It's much more appropriate to have a bend in the knees than it is to have a bend in the shoulders. Good. And then down dog, we kind of let our heads hang. We think of an external rotation of the upper arm, and we think of a slight internal rotation of the lower arm. This is looking so much better. Wow.
I'm still working on that.
Yeah, it's looking really, really good. I'm sure I'm doing right here. Bring my feet down. Is that just keep them up? That's fine. Yeah. I bet you could if you tried. It would just slide the block. Oh, let it move the block. Just hold on to it. It doesn't matter if it moves. Just think about pulling your belly and your spine into my hand. Just, yeah, bingo. So that's zipping up your pelvis. And you feel how that lengthened and moved the pelvis. Good. Bingo. There you go. Let's just go 5 more breaths here. And then when those 5 breaths are complete, dropping down onto your knees, try and keep the block between your heels. And we're going to lower down onto our bellies for some simple back bends. So lift up your belly, push the floor away. If it's possible for the shoulders, your elbows pull in and back as you slowly lower down with the straight spine. If that feels like it's too much for your shoulders, you can transition down over your elbows. See if you can keep your feet holding onto the block. And then point your feet and bring the tops of the feet onto the floor. Excellent. We want to be able to extend the arms out in front of us, and we want to be able to extend the arms out to the side. So we want to be able to do T arms, and we want to be able to do Superman arms. So just checking you've got the space and stagger with your neighbors. So Harry, I think you're going to have to come forward just a tiny bit. Good.
I think I'm good.
Okay, good. Yeah, as long as you're both good, that's cool. And then pushing into the tops of the feet, you're holding onto your blocks. You're going to push the tops of the feet into the floor, and you're going to drag the heels away from you slightly so the ankles lift in an upward dog foot. The forehead is going to come down to the floor. We're going to start in a T. So bring your arms out beside you like an airplane. Push into your fingers and find spider hands. So just the fingertips are pushing down. The palms, the wrists, the elbows are lifted. Walk those fingers away from you.
Elbows are down?
No, elbows are lifted.
Oh, okay.
Yep, just the fingertips are down. Wrists are directly in line with the shoulders. Excellent. Now I want you to push the tops of the feet down. I want you to push down through the baby toes just as much as the big toes. And then I want you to feel like you're trying to pull the toes to you as you reach the heels away without the foot actually changing shape. I want you to feel the block between your heels. The inner heels are trying to drop the block, and the outer heels are trying to squeeze the block. So now you're not using your ankle, which is a little bit trickier. Oh. Then I want you to think about your calves going to the floor as you lift your thighs as far away from the floor as you can. I want you to go to your lower abdominal muscles. I want you to lift them away from the floor and slide them up as if you're going to tuck them in underneath your ribs. And you're going to feel that that moves the flesh of the butt towards the heels, and you want to encourage that action of lengthening the seat towards the heels to create space in your low back. I want you to think about the floating ribs coming to one another and lifting up away from the floor. And then when you're ready, with an inhalation, nothing's going to change, including the shape of the arms, and you're going to lift your head, your shoulders, your hands up off the floor. So push down with the legs, and with an inhalation, lift your head, your shoulders, your ribs up. Hip bones and pubic bones remains level in the floor. Excellent. I like to think about having sandbags on my arms, and I'm lifting my arms up away from the floor. Keeping those legs just as active as I can. Let's see if we can take 10 more breaths here. No wrinkles in the backs of the neck. And then when those 10 breaths are complete, try and get rid of your motorcycle wrists for me, Harry. Yeah, bingo. When those 10 breaths are complete, you're going to come down. You're going to stack the right hand on top of the left hand, and the forehead is going to rest on your hands. Big, big breaths up and down your spine. Right hand on top of left hand, forehead rests on the hands, elbows are nice and wide, and we find these beautiful waves of breath. You can let your legs relax a little bit if you need to, or you can keep them engaged. Just take 3 more breaths here, up and down the spine, slowing down your heart rate by slowing down your breath. Thinking of the wave of breath up the spine, wave of breath down the spine. And then once those breaths are complete for you, you're going to walk your fingers out in front of you like Superman. Fingertips on the floor. Just the fingertips on the floor. Palms are lifted, wrists are lifted, elbows are lifted, forehead rests on the earth. You still have the block between your heels. Ideally, just your heels, not your ankles. And we're pushing the tops of the feet into the floor, particularly trying to push down into the baby toes as much as the big toes. Feel like you're pulling the tops of the feet to you as you lengthen the heels away from you to really lift the ankles and engage the lower legs. Think about the calves going down towards the floor. Lift your thighs as high off the floor as you can. Zip up your belly, moving the skin of the abdomen up as if you're going to tuck it in underneath your ribs. You'll feel that move the flesh of the butt down towards the heels. Keep that energy of the butt lengthening away from the low back. Think about the floating ribs drawing to one another and lifting away from the earth. Activate your arms just like you did in your puppy pose or your down dog pose, and don't let your arms change. And when you're ready, press into those feet. Lift your arms, lift your head, lift your shoulders, not changing the neck. So keeping the back of the neck nice and long so the gaze is down, and let those arms float up. Try and straighten out that right elbow for me, Laura. Push into those feet. Again, I think of big, heavy sandbags on my arms, and I'm going to lift my arms up. I'm going to lift my shoulders up without changing the neck. I lift up into the back of the skull. Let's see if we can do 10 more breaths here. I think I can. And when those 10 breaths are complete, you're going to come down. You're going to stack the right hand on top of the left hand, forehead resting on the hands, and just breathing. Relax your shoulders. If you want to relax your legs, you can. Let's take 5 more breaths here, up and down our spine. This video is for you, Caitlin, whether you want it or not. No excuses. Then when you're ready, we're going to take the hands, we're going to interlace them, we're going to place them on the back of the skull. Interlace with the right hand on top of the left hand, and they're going to come to the back of the skull as if they were a pillow. Elbows are on the floor. Forehead is down, but the chin is slightly tucked so your nose isn't compressed at all. If your nose feels compressed, let me know and I'll just get you what you need so that your nose isn't being compressed. Find your feet. Push down into those feet. Lengthen the heels. Calves to the floor, thighs away from the floor. Move the flesh of the butt towards the heels as you zip up your belly. Fire up your rib cage. Fire up your shoulders. Fire up your armpits. Find an external rotation of your arm. Reach with the elbows just the right amount. Feel like you're lifting up into the back of the skull. Big exhale, and with your next inhalation, come up with the upper body. So elbows wider from you, Lara. Yeah, bingo. Slightly different on this one. Good. Reach the elbows apart, lift the elbows up. Laura, too much lifting the elbows up. Yeah. Excellent. Especially this elbow, it's a little bit higher. Bring it down. Yeah, there you go. Use those legs. Keep zipping your belly. Think floating ribs to one another and lift your ribs to come higher. Lengthening the armpits towards the elbows. Let's see if we can do 10 more breaths. When those 10 breaths are complete, you can come into your rest. You know it very well by now. Excellent work, everybody. We're halfway there. We're gonna do the whole series. Your backs love this. Let's just do 5 more breaths and the rest. But remembering, you don't have to stay up as long as I recommend. You can always come into your rest anytime you feel you need it. We all know the rest pose. We can ditch our blocks anytime we felt like we've had enough. You can do the whole series without the block. It'll be a lot easier without the block. And then when you're ready, you're going to take your arms out like a T again. Fingertips down, palms and elbows up, forehead down. Wrists, elbows, shoulders in a nice straight line. Walk the fingers away from you. So in this round, it's going to be slightly different. We're going to keep the energy of the legs exactly how I describe it, but eventually we're going to lift the feet. But let's find the energy first. Push down into the feet, lengthen the heels. Calves to the floor, thighs to the floor. Lengthen your butt. Feel the hip bones and pubic bones rooting evenly. Zip up your bellies, connect your ribs and lift them off the earth. When you're ready, relax your shoulders, fire up your arms like you had them in down dog, and with a nice big inhale, you're gonna float up into the air. First the arms, the head, the shoulders, and then finally, once you're up at your highest, you're gonna float those feet. But the knees and the toes still point down. We keep lengthening the butt. We keep firing our heels. No wrinkles in the back of the neck. You're going to hold this as long as you can hold this, and then you're going to make your way into your rest. Not worrying about what anybody else is doing, just staying present with your body, your practice, your breath. Lower right hand's a little bit higher than the left. Bingo. It almost feels like an internal rotation of the thighs to keep the legs neutral. Those legs are looking really good, Gil. Nice work. That block sure helps. So Chris, you feel how you're externally rotating the legs? Yeah. So you want to think about rolling the thighs to one another, opposite. So you want, yeah, exactly. You want the knees and the ankles to point down. Now you lost your arms. When you rolled your thighs, you rolled your arms. If you're still up, not taking any more than 3 or 4 more breaths, and then making your way into the pose so you get sufficient rest. Let's just take 5 more breaths in the rest. Remember, we slow down our heart rate by deepening and slowing down our breath. You can ditch the block and relax the legs anytime you like. And then once those 5 breaths are complete, let's do the Superman version, walking the arms forward. Just on your fingertips, arms are straight. Do you want help with that? Yes, please. Think of your down dog arms. A slight external rotation of the upper arm, a slight internal rotation of the lower arm. Elbows almost pull apart, fingers are active. Press into the feet. Calves to the floor, heels to the back wall, thighs lifting away from the floor, flesh of the butt to the back wall, zip your abdomen, floating ribs come to one another and lift off the earth. Even out your shoulders, right shoulder's a tiny bit higher than the left, Caitlin. Lengthen the armpits forward, and then when you're ready, big exhale. With an inhalation, float the arms. Once you have your arms, your shoulders, your head at a height that feels appropriate, then float your feet. Remember, you're holding as long as you're comfy holding, but really thinking of the form. Try not to change the arms if you can help it. Try not to lose the zipper of the belly. Try not to lose the connection of the front ribs. When you've had your fill, you make it to your rest. Try and keep those arms straight. Don't let those elbows bend in this version. Reach, reach, reach. And if you're still up, not taking any more than 5 more breaths before you make your way into your rest. One more, you guys. Five more breaths. Slowing down your heart rate by deepening and slowing down your breath. And then once those 5 breaths are complete for you and there's no rush, interlace your fingers. This time left hand on top of right, taking your hands to the back of the skull. Last one, you guys, you can do it. Elbows start on the floor. Find your feet. Push down into the toes, lengthen the heels, and try and keep the shape of the feet when you lift them. Calves to the floor, thighs away from the floor. Zip up your belly and allow the flesh of the butt to lengthen to the heels. Engage the floating ribs and lift them up. Think armpits forward, externally rotating the upper arms. Reach the elbows in all directions, and when you're ready, lift up into the back of the skull, lift up into the shoulders, lift the arms up, lift the ribs up, and then once you've lifted your highest with your upper body, then you can lift your feet. Last one, so holding as long as you can, and then making your way into the rest. So Chris, think about your inner heels dropping the block, outer heels squeezing the block. There you go, girl. Now you feel the knees are pointing down. You feel how the thighs it feels almost like the thighs roll in to keep the knees and the toes pointing down. There's such a habit in our culture to externally rotate our legs. Ditch that block when you come down, and then the toes are going to touch and the heels are going to come apart. Big, big breaths. Forehead eventually rests on the hands, right hand on top of left hand, toes point in, heels point out. And then just finding that beautiful wave of breath up and down the spine. Slowing down your heart rate by slowing down your breath. Big, beautiful waves of breath, massaging the spine from low back to mid back to upper back. Three-part yoga breath. And let's take 10 more full, deep, 3-part yoga breaths. And then let's make our way into a nice long hold for child's pose. And we all have our favorite variation of child's pose. We're going to do a nice long hold. So if you want to use the bolsters, use the bolsters. Once those 10 breaths are complete, transitioning into your child's pose. Those of us with sensitive shoulders, don't push up from the palms. Come up onto the elbows, lift up, and then lift up from the hands. Just kind of going halfway. If your elbows or your shoulders are a little bit funky right now. If they're not, you can come almost through a half push-up with the knees on the floor, but really hugging the elbows into the body. Well-deserved child's pose. Finding a version where you don't feel your knees at all. Once again, finding that 3-part yoga breath up and down the spine. Let's do 10 more waves of breath here, up and down the spine. And when those 10 waves of breath are complete, if you're in child's pose, remembering which way, if you're doing a specific one that, you need to swap the crossing or the direction you look, remembering which direction you're looking or which crossing you have so that you can come into the other side next time. And once those 10 breaths are complete, you're going to make your way into tabletop position, hands coming underneath the shoulders to push yourself up, index fingers pointing forward, and just opening up the backs of the knees once again. Making sure that your ears are with your shoulders so there's no turtlenecking going on. And once you feel like you've opened up the backs of the knees, you can make your way either into puppy pose with the straight arms, forehead coming onto the floor, the same way we've begun this series, or you can come into a down dog. And then once those 10 breaths are complete, returning to your child's pose. And if you need to change your crossing or the direction you're looking, then changing your crossing or the direction. That's a good version for you, Lara, on the block.
I like it a lot.
Yeah. And once you're in your child's pose, finding that wave of breath up and down the spine. Let's do 10 more waves of breath up and down our spines. And then when those 10 breaths are complete, once again, coming through tabletop position, opening up the backs of the knees. Hands coming underneath the shoulders to push yourself up. And again, once you feel like you've opened up the backs of the knees sufficiently, making your way either into puppy pose or into down dog. Making sure we're not feeling our wrists at all and that we're really grounding through the base of the thumb and the index. Trying to find that slight external rotation of the upper arm and that slight internal rotation of the lower arm. Again, puppy pose, trying to keep the action of the arms, working the forehead towards the floor. If you're comfortable in puppy pose and you want to go further, you just lift your knees and come into down dog, but keep the straight line of the shoulders. No planking in the shoulders. Zip those bellies. Whatever pose you're in, zip your belly. Floating ribs to one another and lifting up. Let's go 10 more breaths here. And then when those 10 breaths are complete, dropping back down onto your knees. Let's come into standing from here.